We are back. Part 11, I think. Yeah, probably part 11. Let me actually mute my phone before we get going. So there will be no fake thingies going on. Okay. Start. There we go. Lower it on my end. And load. The sacrifice is chosen by the key, indeed. The second day. Oh boy. Do we find out if anyone died? Right, we jumped back to the guest house. After all that excitement the previous night, there was no way anyone was going to wake up soon. George, Aniki, Jessica, and I were snoring loudly on the bed in the cousin's room. But Maria, who didn't join in, and who had gone straight to bed the previous night, suddenly and completely opened her eyes. I imagine her, like, actually immediately blinking her eyes open, like in a horror movie or something. As she rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around, the loud snoring coming from the three cousins continued. For a while... Whoa, the rain just stopped there. For a while, Maria had to think about what had happened. After that, she realized that her mother was not with her, and quickly got lonely. Aww. Maria left the cousin's room, trying to head to the room that had been arranged for her and her mother. Paying no heed to the three who were sleeping soundly, she made a loud, slamming sound on her way out. In response, Battler mumbled and rolled over in his sleep, but it wasn't enough to wake him up. It's always confusing me because just now we were in Battler POV, even though he was kind of talking about himself in a weird way, but still, it was just George, Annika, Jessica, and I, but now we're here. Okay. I guess we kind of technically switched to Maria POV. After a while, or I don't know, not Maria POV, but Omniscient POV. After a while, Maria returned once again, opening the door with a lively bang. When she had left the room, her face had been sleepy, but after returning, she now looked discontent. After that, she climbed up on Battler's bed, which happened to be closest, and started yelling and jumping on it like it was a trampoline. Get absolutely wrecked, Battler. Okay, literally bounce. Quite the bouncy track as well. A war has begun. You have been drafted and it's life or death now, Battler. Yeah. Good that he's immediately up to speed. No. But kind of funny coincidence that his lines kind of matched what I was joking about. After making sure that I was awake, Maria jumped over onto George Anika's bed and started bouncing on that too. And George is not gonna take the ball. He's gonna be like, what the fuck? In that manner, the three of us were all greeted with an extremely pleasant awakening. Yeah, pleasant.
ありがとう、マリアちゃん。起こしてくれたんだね。僕たちは夕べが遅かったから寝坊しちゃったのを起こしてくれたんだね。でも、もう少しだけ起こし方を優しくしてくれると完璧だったかな。
No can do. But okay, George is alive. That is good to know. But we're just worried about Shannon then.
ジョージ兄さんは本当に大人だよ。尊敬するぜ。
もうすぐ7時なんだな。ま、確かにもう起きてもいい頃だぜ。
Okay, weird pause. Yeah, what's up, Mario? Hmm, that that is scary because I kinda don't want her to die.
ローザおばさんが部屋にいなかったの？もう起きてお屋敷の方に行っちゃったのかな。
Poor Mario. Maria kept groaning ooh ooh and looking unhappy. It seemed like she wasn't simply lonely because she couldn't find her mother, but actually unhappy because her mother wasn't in the place she thought she was, and this made her feel like she'd been tricked. Oof. If we could have just told her where her mother was, that might have been enough to satisfy her. But unfortunately, as long as we were here, we had no way of finding that out. Unless you try calling, but you guys don't know yet that the lines have been cut.
どうせ朝食に行くことになるんだし、屋敷の方に行こうぜ。
True.
そうだな。マリア、一緒に屋敷へ行こうぜ。きっとローザおばさんもそこさ。
Mm-hmm.
おママはお屋敷なら行く。お
I hope she didn't die.
そうだね。お屋敷に行こうか。
There's gonna be lots of Maria crying if she did.
多分親たちはもう向こうに行ってるんだよ。
Maria regained her usual composure, as though her earlier temper had never happened. We got dressed, left the room, and headed for the mansion. Sure. Let me actually just quickly check if there's anything new here. No, that's just that, and that's the letter. And Japanese big numbers. Characters. I don't see anything here. I don't know. Probably nothing new. Sure. We got dressed, left the room, and headed for the mansion. It'd be typhooning out there. The door to the study was once again knocked upon. But there was no answer. He was still sleeping, and she couldn't wake him. If she returned downstairs saying something like that, Ava would be very amused and triumphant. And even aside from the whole Ava issue, there was the problem that yesterday, during this once-a-year family conference, he had stayed locked up all day and had still not come out to greet the guests. Even though he was the head. No, especially because he was the head. He couldn't fail to make an appearance. Could she convince him? What if Kinzo died? Natsuhi readied herself, and, using the key that she had borrowed from Genji, opened the door. A sweet stench that seemed to eat into her brain poured from the narrow opening she had created, and though she was prepared for it, she couldn't help but grimace. Thinking that he might still be sleeping, Natsuhi entered the room quietly. Okay, good. I was just thinking that was blood, but it was there before already, and I already pointed it out, right? When she did, Kinzo, already awake, was looking down out of the window.
お目覚めでしたか。おはようございます。
どうやって入ったのか。
Kinzo spoke, with his back still facing her. His voice was not harsh, but calm, and Natsuhi was slightly reassured. Yeah, it's kind of weird that he's not mad about that. Maybe that has something to do with the hints towards the gold? However, he was at least in a bad enough mood that he had ignored the sound of all that knocking even though he had been awake. Natsuhi wasn't able to break the tension.
申し訳ございませんでした。源氏さんにお願いして書斎の鍵をお借りさせていただきました。
ほう、源氏がか。我が友がそれに足ると思ったならば話を聞かぬわけにもいくまい。して私に何用か。
はい。もうじき朝食の準備が整いますが、ぜひお父様にもおいでいただきたく思いまして。
I feel like you should have started with the Pros and the Co have not returned.
朝食はここで取る。いつものように運ばせるがいい。
しかしお父様、年に一度の親族会議です。せめてお顔をお見せになってください。
下に降りて、私の死後、遺産をどのように食いちぎるのかを決める議論に加われというのか。バカらしい。そのような話は私を抜きで好きに進めるがいい。そしてそれが親族会議だというなら、私がこの部屋を出るほどの価値はない。私は忙しいのだ。
Absolutely destroyed.
構うでない。
With his last words came the threat that any further questions would be useless. Natsuhi realized that adding any further pleas would finally bring his wrath down upon her. It would be annoying to hear Eva sarcastically say that she hadn't been able to convince him after all, but there was nothing more Natsuhi could do.
そうですか。わかりました。みんな残念がるでしょうが、そう伝えます。
Natsuhi decided to give up. Bowing silently, she made to leave the room before Kinzo's spasmodic temper could fire up. Oof. As she did, Kinzo called out to her, "Oh?" Compared to the usual Kinzo, this voice was calm and gentle, like it came from another person.
Natsuhi.
That's not calm and gentle, that's Natsuhi. White Shadow, okay?
後ろ宮の家に嫁ぎ、もう随分になるな。
はい。後ろ宮を名乗ることを許されてから、もう随分になります。
前の家が恋しくなることもあるか。
A good question. Wonder what she wants to say here.
いい
え。Okay.
嫁ぐとは、成果を捨てることです。私は後宮夏日。帰る家も、懐かしむ家も、すべてはこの後宮の家のみです。
It was definitely not an exaggeration. Such was the level of Natsuhi's resolve in calling herself an Ushiromiya. That was why she was so sorrowful that, despite all of her effort, it had been fruitless and she was not even accepted by her husband.
クラウスな女で、お前がその夫であったなら。いや、それは言うまい。
Right, you're still on about this whole, I forget what the term for that was, but the whole woman and husband, or man and woman, like levels of power dynamic stuff. Yeah. Husband and wife stuff.
それは、お父さん。
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to skip.
それは、 いう意味ですか、お父様。
Natsuhi was shocked. If Kinzo's words just now had been meant literally, they would have been more than enough to make up for all she had suffered up to that point. Yeah. Meaning that Kinzo respects you. At least the way you try to push forward.
忘れよ。年寄りのざれ言だ。
Kinzo once again faced away from her. He had told her to forget it, but Natsuhi couldn't help feeling a warmth in her heart.
お父様、この夏日は血はつながらずともお父様の娘です。
I'm happy that she's feeling a bit more not salvaged, a bit more saved, I guess.
後宮家の名誉も栄光も、そしてお父様が残されたものもすべてこの夏日が必ずや守ってみせますから。
お前に片翼のわしをまとう資格はない。
So it would seem.
しかし、お前の心には確かに片翼のわしが刻まれている。ならばお前は間違いなく我が血族で後宮家の栄光を引き継ぐものだ。
That's gonna send Natsuhi over the moon.
お前の衣服にわしがないことを嘲笑う者もいよう。しかし、それに耳を貸すことはない。心にわしを持つ者だけが真の私の血族なのだ。お前を後宮家に迎えられたことを今は光栄に思っている。
Damn, that's a lot of praise, and Natsuhi surely feels more redeemed now. Without saying anything more, Kinzo remained with his back to Natsuhi. However, Natsuhi couldn't help but feel something warm well up inside her that she hadn't felt since long ago, when she had been just a child. Natsuhi bowed silently to his back and left the room.
あら、ちょうどいいタイミングだったわね。
I don't think your sarcasm and mean-spirited comments will get to Natsuhi right now.
お父様の様子はどう？あんまり遅いから様子を見に来ちゃったのよ。
When Natsuhi left the study, she saw Ava climbing the stairs, and their eyes met. Ava was smirking unpleasantly, thinking that Natsuhi had just left the room trudgingly after failing to convince Kinzo. However, the way Natsuhi was now, such a frivolous laugh would not disturb her. Yeah, now Natsuhi has like a burning passion in her eyes. She's much more resolute now. She was not permitted to wear the family crest on her clothing, this is true. But she was permitted to wear it in her heart. She spoke calmly, clearly, and confidently, with the dignity of one who would protect the glory of the Ushiromiya family.
お父様は親族会議にはおいでにならないそうです。汚らわしい議題に関心はないと仰せです。とかなんとか言っちゃって。お父様を説得できなかったんなら素直にそう言えばいいじゃない。哀れですね。お父様が嘆かれるお気持ちも分かろうというものです。
Oh, Natsuhi is rising above all the trash talking right now. Natsuhi is ascending.
それはどういう意味よ。
Natsuhi did not answer. Just as Kinzo had done earlier, she showed Ava her back and she headed down the stairs. The coldest motherfucking move. Struggling to gather what had happened, Ava could only determine that she had been made fun of and that something had happened to quickly bolster Natsuhi's confidence. We love to see Ava be a jerk, but we also love people striking back at Ava and leaving Ava so bewildered. Even so, she didn't have the courage to risk Kinzo's wrath. Unable to even knock on the door, she could only scratch at the air in front of it, cluck her tongue, and follow after Natsuhi.
それで兄さんたちはいたの？お父様に聞いたの？聞きそびれましたが、書斎の中にはいませんでした。お父様が夫たちの下船な話のために入室を許すこともありえませんから、行き先を知ることもないでしょう。下に降りて使用人たちが探してくれるのを待ちましょう。朝食は遅れますが、お茶でもいかがです？エヴァさん。
I'm so sorry, Ava, but you just lost so hard to Natsuhi.
別に結構よ。
Ava couldn't hide her confusion over the complete difference in Natsuhi's demeanor, yeah. She was acting so boldly, and while Ava hated to admit it, she even had a sense of dignity about her. Unable to find fault with anything, she could only follow Natsuhi back to the parlor. When the two of them returned to the parlor, not only Hideyoshi, but the 4 children and Nanjo had gathered there. Okay, Nanjo confirmed alive as well. So now it's literally just Kraus and Rudolph, Kyrie, and Rosa missing, and Shannon. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people are missing. 6. No, 7. Right, 7 people still missing. And it said here. On the first twilight, sacrifice the 6 chosen by the key. Well, we had a key there in Natsuhi's hands. So which of these 7 is still alive? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I feel like Rosa is the most likely to still be alive. But you can never count out Kumasawa. I just beg that you are not the one who's gonna be alive out of the 7. Assuming that 6 of them are dead. They could come back in the very next scene. Genji, who had been talking with Hideyoshi, reported the current situation when he noticed that Natsuhi had returned.
主人たちはまだ見つからないのですか？
はい、申し訳ございません。あと、熊沢が朝食の準備に入りました。
Okay, well, that's now just 6. So, Kraus, Rudolph, Kyrie, Rosa, Shannon, and Goda, possibly dead. Unlucky for Maria.
もう少し時間をいただきたいとのことです。
The clock read a little past 8 a.m. 8 o'clock was the time that breakfast was supposed to have started. The mere fact that the hosts had gone over that time limit was a disgrace under normal circumstances.
今、カノンが表を探しています。それから、シャノンの姿も見えません。
シャノンまで？まったく、主人は何を従えて散歩に出かけたのですか？
How many people couldn't be found? With the number of people having grown so large, it was starting to feel truly unpleasant, as though they were the only ones being left out on something interesting. At the very least, it looked like the children, no, Maria especially, felt the same way. She was indignant, her stomach grumbling, almost as though her mother and the others had left her alone to go off and eat something delicious without her. Trying to fix her bad mood, the other children were flipping through the channels on the television, trying to find a program that might interest Maria. Nanjo was sitting on the sofa, gazing blissfully at the children while reading a book. No doubt it was a book about chess. The sound of footsteps came rushing towards them with a pitter-patter. Uh-oh, Kanan? There was only one set, though they realized before they saw the source that it was not Kraus and the rest, but probably Kanan.
奥様、失礼します。
その様子では見つけられなかったようですね。
申し訳ございません。まだ。
もう十分です。ご苦労をかけました。
She didn't know where they were. They had to be somewhere on this island. They hadn't put anything in their mouths since last night, so their stomachs must be growling about now. Yeah? I mean, you say that they must be somewhere on the island, but they could have been reckless and tried to take a boat, assuming there still was one at the harbor here, and tried to leave. They would surely saunter in any time now. Surely. Clueless. Natsuhi was already dumbfounded, and she had begun to think that there was no urgent need to find them right then. Right.
私はお客様方にお茶のご用意をしに厨房へ行きます。二人とも早朝からご苦労様でした。
Headache. Natsuhi, acting as though the release intention had caused a new surge in her headache, left the parlor. Acting. Kanan tried to call her as she left, but Natsuhi departed swiftly.
どうした？まだ何かあるのか？
はい。旦那様方のお姿を見つけることはできませんでしたが、その。
Uh-oh. Kanan sounded evasive. Did you find Goda? He still didn't know where they were, but maybe he had found something with some relation to that. When Eva and Hideyoshi noticed this exchange of words, they came over. They had probably noticed the slightly strange way Kanan was acting.
どうしたんや、カノン君。クラウス兄さんたちは見つかったんか？
実はバラ庭園の倉庫の様子がおかしいのです。
Uh-oh.
様子がおかしいというのはどういう意味だ？
それがその。なんと説明すればいいのか。
Kanan once again hesitated. He wasn't speaking anything like you'd expect from the usually fearless Kanan. Eva and Hideyoshi exchanged quizzical looks at this display.
どういうこと？倉庫の中に兄さんたちがいたんじゃないの？
いえ、中はこれから調べます。
Why didn't you do it before?
その鍵を取りに戻ったところなのですが。
Makes sense. Get the key. Chosen by the key.
その。
Blood outside, maybe?
ようわからんが、とにかく中を調べればいいだけの話やないか。その倉庫の鍵はどこにあるんや？
使用人室にあります。すぐに中を確かめましょう。
Kanan dashed off to the servant room and returned with the key. Genji left the parlor, saying that he would go check, but Eva and Hideyoshi also followed. What was this something odd about the storehouse that had caused the usually fearless Kanan to hesitate? It was still pouring outside, but their curiosity over this something that Kanan couldn't talk about won out. While the children made a big fuss watching television, Kanon and the rest dashed off to the entrance. The Rose Garden Storehouse was a place that housed various tools used to manage the garden. It was definitely not a pretty building. Because of its appearance, it had been built hidden in a corner of the Rose Garden. Kanon, Genji, Eva, and Hideyoshi came cutting across the Rose Garden, holding umbrellas. They entered a small path just off the Rose Garden, which was not used by those simply appreciating the garden, but only by those maintaining it. As they dashed further along with it, the front of the storehouse came into view. Yeah? That looks ominous. It was a very old shed of a storehouse, and compared to the flawlessly perfect beauty of the Rose Garden, it was pretty seedy looking. It was easy to understand why it had been built in a hard-to-see place. Eva and Hideyoshi arrived at the storehouse long after Kanon and Genji.
カノン君たちは早いな。わしは心臓が爆発しそうや。
Watch him die a death like that.
こんなところに倉庫なんか建ててたのね。何よそれ。
Yeah, I guess there's blood here. When Eva looked at where Kanon was pointing, she was at a loss for words. Noticing this, Hideyoshi also followed Kanon's finger, and was likewise too shocked to speak. The entrance to the storehouse was a kind of shutter, and there, everyone there now understood why Kanon had been unable to find words that could describe what he saw. On the shutter, which was completely filthy from being exposed to the wind and rain for so long, plastered on it. Ooh. Something that looked like a strange dark red liquid? Yeah, that sure is a magic circle. With this design of a cross. I forget where this was. I feel like this shape, cross shape, is like familiar, but I have no idea where it comes from. Maybe from the German army? No idea. Mucus? Or maybe it was some sticky paint. No, I'm sorry, it's not. Some kind of ghastly substance had been used to draw an indescribably eerie shape. The rain had caused it to drip down in several places like fresh blood leaking from an open wound. There was no longer any point in being choosy with words. A ghastly dark red substance meant to look like blood had been used to draw some kind of figure or mark, intended to suggest something ominous. Yeah. Two concentric circles were drawn there, and inside them was a design that looked like a cross. The four ends of the cross were widely exaggerated, and it looked like some kind of crest from somewhere around Europe. Was I correct in assuming then? And in the cracks between these shapes, written closely packed together, were some unfamiliar characters. Yeah, those are just, I don't know, runes, I guess. Glyphs. Or possibly symbols.
なんちゅう悪趣味な落書きや。
Yeah, graffiti, yeah.
これ、あれか？悪魔の儀式とかの魔法陣いうやつとちゃうか？
Yeah, it most certainly is. With reference to this ghastly shape drawn with a deep red, dripping substance, Hideyoshi's comparison was not unreasonable.
これいつ書かれたの？
Probably last night.
昨日雨が降り出す前にここに来ましたが、 その時には何も書かれてませんでした。
他の方々の目に触れる前に何とかしよう。ご覧になられたらご不快になられるだろう。
Genji the goat.
そうね。ただの倉庫小屋とはいえ、こんな気持ち悪い落書きを1秒たりとも放置したくないわ。
倉庫の中に塗料もあります。応急処置でとりあえず塗り消して、後日天気のいい日に改めて塗装しましょう。
That's an idea. Genji remembered that he had just recently seen another piece of graffiti, and that it too had been made with a strange dark red substance of the same color as this. Uh-oh. That must have been... That's right, he had seen it on the door to Natsuhi's room. Ah. Well, well, well. I guess Natsuhi was meant to be one of the sacrifices, I guess, but was protected by the charm.
カノン君、さっさとこの落書きを消して戻りましょう。たとえ倉庫とはいえ、実家の落書きは本当に腹立たしいわ。
You are kinda avoiding about the important subject of maybe looking inside here. Or I guess they are gonna open it anyways if they are gonna get paid from there, but yeah.
はい。すぐに済ませますので。
Kanan squatted in front of the shutter and unlocked it. He then lifted it up with all of his strength. The wind is going crazy. A boisterous noise resounded, and the eerie shape drawn on the shutter began to get sucked in through the top as the shutter was raised. At least for the time being, that ominous thing disappeared from their direct gaze, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. And then... Oh, never mind. Back inside. Thanks to a kids program that they had come across, Maria was feeling much better. Battler and Jessica were making fun of the kids program at every turn, cackling. George was enjoying the program along with Maria, of course. Nanjo sat on a sofa by himself, passing the time by reading quietly. They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. Uh-oh. They were footsteps from a single person. Yeah? Did that mean that it wasn't the group of four that had just left? Kumasawa, I guess? Genji. Genji was the one who had returned. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of servants' virtues, of course, to be gasping for air. He had probably come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet, and he didn't have his usual smart appearance. Uh-oh. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small, silent bow and quickly approached him. Yeah, somebody had died inside the storage.
Nanjo sensei, 申し訳ございません。至急お越しください。何事ですかな?
As Genji whispered something into Nanjo's ear, Nanjo's face changed color. He stood from the sofa, trying not to be noticed by the children who were still engrossed by the TV, and the two of them rapidly left the parlor, muffling their footsteps. Ooh. Just as they were leaving the parlor, they came across Natsuhi, who was pushing a serving cart loaded with a tea set. Yeah? Genji whispered something... the change, yeah. Genji whispered something into Natsuhi's ear, and Natsuhi's face too changed color, shocked. Then, leaving the serving cart where it was, the three of them started dashing towards the entrance. Yeah. George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window.
なんだろう。源氏さんと南條先生とあれは夏日おばさんかな。
どうしたんだよ、兄貴。
何かあったのかな。ひどい慌てようだったね。
Jessica and Maria also realized that something had happened from the fact that Eva, Hideyoshi, and Nanjo were no longer in their seats. And because the serving cart had been abandoned at the entrance to the parlor.
何か事故でもあったとか？
行ってみようぜ。
Oh,
俺たちだけのけ者なんて面白くねえしな。
it's not gonna be fun. Oh, Battler. For some reason, what Battler said sounded extremely indiscreet, yeah. But they couldn't deny that they were a little insecure and concerned after seeing the adults run off into the rain, disregarding their appearance.
行ってみようぜ。何があったか気になるぜ。
Jessica's insecure words spoke for all of them.
おい、マリア。お前も来るか？
Somehow I have a feeling that Maria already knows what has happened and will just sit this one out.
それともテレビを見てるか？
おお、マリアはテレビがいい。おお。
Good choice. Actually, great choice.
僕たちだけで行こう。マリアちゃん、すぐ戻るからね。テレビを見て待ってるんだよ。
Yeah, leaving the kid there definitely means that there's gonna be a death scene here. By the time the kids went outside, they had lost sight of the adults, who had left earlier. But it looked like Jessica had a pretty good idea of where they had gone from the direction they had been running. Following Jessica, they ran through the rain-soaked rose garden. That line there was just basically breezed by, but why did Jessica just now know? I mean, obviously it was said that based on the way they were running, but what if there was more to it? Does Jessica have more information that she's hiding? It felt like the wind suddenly got stronger. It has been very loud. The malicious sound of thunder began to ring out like it had the previous night. It felt like something eerie had surrounded the island and was trying to stop them from moving forward.
ジェシカ、この先には何があるんだ？
確か園芸道具なんかの倉庫があったはずだぜ。
そんなところに一体何があるんだろうね。
Just as Jessica had said, a storehouse came into view in front of them. They could also see the adults there. The shutter to the storehouse was open, and several of the adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsuhi was outside the storehouse, not even holding an umbrella. She was facing away from them, and it looked like she was hanging her head. Is it specifically Kraus? The ones who had just left, Genji, Nanjo, Natsuhi. And the ones who had left before them, Kanon, Eva, and Hideyoshi, made this a large gathering of people, but there was absolutely no bustle of activity. When Natsuhi realized that the children had come, a terrible expression rose to her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide. However, no, because of that, the kids saw that scene which Natsuhi was trying to keep them away from. Inside the storehouse, with the shutter wide open, a flickering fluorescent light shone down. And over there... Ooh, what a scream. Golden Slaughterer. Jessica's piercing shriek rang out. Yeah, it really did. Oh boy. But that was just because Jessica's scream was the loudest. The same thing spilled out of Battler and George's mouths as well. Eva, just like Natsuhi, spread her arms and with a terrible expression roared at the kids. George? When Natsuhi had spread her arms, one might have thought that she was trying to prevent them from advancing any further. However, right now that wasn't why Eva was spreading her arms. She was trying to hide that terrible scene from the kids. It was her mother's heart trying to protect the eyes and hearts of us children by attempting to block our view of that terrible scene by at least with the width of one of her arms.
何の冗談だってんだよこりゃあよ
I had seen this kind of cheap scene all too often in manga, TV, anime, and movies. I had seen it over and over again. This was just seeing something appear in real life that I had seen plenty of times before in some of those more sensational movies, wasn't it? That alone shouldn't... but that suit, it's that old bastards, isn't it? I get it. Then that's Uncle Kraus and Geriesa and Auntie Rosa. And then a bunch of screaming that I really can't match or deliver, sorry. But yeah. Really hitting battler. Well, everyone.
ダメよジェシカ入ってはダメ見てはダメお父さんお父さん
死後硬直をほぼ全身に認められる。多分死後6時間以上は経過しとるだろう。損壊部位の状況を見る限り死後に破壊された可能性が高い。
Might possibly that they were damaged after their deaths.
いや、めったなことは言えん。私は町医者だ。検視は専門外だ。ちゅうことは何や。殺しただけじゃ飽き足らず、さらにこんな無体なことをしたん言うんか。
Yeah?
悪魔や。悪魔の所業や。
Aunt Natsuhi caught Jessica in her arms, and Auntie Ava caught George Aniki. So I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. If only there had been someone here to catch me too. I wouldn't have needed to have this horrible, evil scene burned into my eyes. Music is going so hard. No, that's not it. I'm standing here not because the people who would catch me aren't here, but because the people who would catch me are right here. Right there. Just as Jessica had said, it did look like a storehouse used to keep gardening tools. A lawnmower and its replacement blades. A grass sickle and a hammer. A saw and some construction tools. Piled up potted plants and bags of fertilizer. And treated just the same, the corpses of several people had been laid to rest there. No, had been thrown in there. I could tell them by their clothes. That old bastard and Kirie-san, Uncle Kraus and Auntie Rosa. Further back, Goda-san, and... there's still more of them? How many people died? Fucking hell. Yeah, nice kick. Fucking hell, I can't even count them on one hand. God fucking damn it. I didn't know whether it had been one of these gardening tools which, if used for something other than their intended purpose, could definitely be wielded with a naked brutality. Or whether some horrible tool had been brought in here specifically for this. What? Damn, it's... whatever the case, the bodies lying about here, each of them had been given an atrocious makeover. Ooh. Playing or just hack and slash, or... This isn't a damn makeover. This is more like their faces have been plowed. Oh. Whew. Yikes. Nice inversion. Their faces were smashed, forced into an expression that a normal person couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell where their eyes or nose were, but I could find the mouth, because it was gaping wide. The ridges of the teeth were exposed the ridges of teeth exposed, but the front teeth were missing, and even the cheek that should have covered that was all torn up and exposed. Damn. The stylish makeup that he spent way too much time fuzzing over for a guy is no help at all. Mm-hmm.
てめえは絶対地獄行きだとは思ってたぜ。でもよ、ここまでじゃねえだろ。ここまでひでえ目に遭わされるほどの悪党じゃなかっただろうがよ。だからキリエさんもさ、こんな男と付き合うのはやめろって言ったんだ。あんたまでそこまでの目に遭わされる理由は何もねえじゃねえかよ。顔がねえ。顔がねえよ。
Oh my.
くそくそくそくそ。
Yeah, let it all out.
バトラさん、これ以上見てはいかん。こんな姿をお父さんもお母さんもあんたに見せたいわけがない。お父さんとお母さんのためにもこれ以上見てはいかん。
死者ってのは安らかに眠る顔ってやつを拝ませてくれるんじゃねえのかよ。顔がねえんだよ。俺の親父とキリエさんの顔がねえんだよ。
God damn.
どういう顔して死んじまったのか、それすらもわかんねえんだよ。なんだよ俺は。親父たちのことを思い出すときはこのくちゃくちゃの化け物みてえな顔をいつも思い出せたのかよ。そいつは最高だぜ。クソ親父のニヤニヤとした顔を思い出さなくていいんだからよ。最高だぜ最高だぜ。
Ah, he's losing it.
でもよ、キリエさんの顔くらいもいいだろ。キリエさんは悪党じゃねえ。たまにはムカつくと思ったけどよ、ちょいとかっこいい俺の姉気分だったお人じゃねえかよ。
Yeah.
こりゃねえよ。こんなのってねえよ。クロスおじさんなんかまだマシじゃねえか。顔面じゃなくて側面だぜ。
I mean, it's still not good, but...
少なくとも顔半分は残ってるじゃねえかよ。まだマシだぜまだマシだぜ。
Trying to shut out my reckless words, Jessica tried to fill her ears with the sound of her own screaming.
よすんだバタラ君。もうよすんだ。もうよすんだ。
Poor George.
兄貴兄貴。
Disregarding age and appearance, I fell to my knees, clinging to Aniki's waist and sobbing. Damn. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there. Representing the feelings of everyone there, I screamed over and over. Ooh, that got to me. That really got to me.
お父さん、倒れているのはクラウスおじさん、ルドルフおじさん、キリエおばさんにローザおばさん、ゴーダさんで5人。
I feel like Battler saw sixth one, unfortunately, George.
いや、
Oh no.
6人や。
Oh fuck.
ここにもう一人おる。
The body that Hideyoshi was looking down on now was hidden in the shadow of a mountain of random objects, in a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance. So George couldn't tell whose body it was. Therefore, George cursed himself. He cursed that part of himself that imagines the worst, and is always right.
じゃあお父さんの足元に倒れているのはシャノンなんだね。
ああ、シャノンちゃんや。
Nice rippling sounds. Mm. World End BP. Fuck. George was completely silent. He shook slightly, his lower lip trembling. He wanted to run up to his beloved, screaming and crying. But before rashly running up to her, he mustered up all of his strength to ask his father.
シャノもクラウスおじさんたちと同じなのかな。
Oh my god. Hideyoshi deeply understood the meaning of those words, so he couldn't give George a quick answer. No, he thought that to George right now, that was the only possible sincere and loving response. When George had asked whether she was the same, he had meant to ask whether her corpse was the same as the others. Since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it, it meant that the body was just as horrible.
シャノを見てもいいかな。
No.
いや、あかん。
どうして？
Because you're gonna break.
だってもう二度とシャノンの顔を見られないんだよ。その最後の顔、どうして見たらいけないんだよ。
お前が最後にシャノンちゃんに会ったのは昨日か。
It really fucking sucks because he was just kind of proposing to her.
そうか。そのシャノンちゃんは別れ際にお前にどんな顔を見せたんや。
素敵な笑顔だったよ。
Yeah, you need to remember that. After receiving the ring, she was bewildered even though her heart should have been decided. Bashful, and so embarrassed to show him that face that she ran away. That expression was revived in George's mind.
そうか。
I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but it sure makes it more emotional.
ならシャノンちゃんもその笑顔をお前に残したいと願うはずや。
Yeah. Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a terrible, horrible state that it would make anyone want to cover their eyes. Half of the face had been smashed off, and no more than half of her expression remained. Oh fuck. Why? Game, fuck you. If that remaining half, soaked red with blood, had been wiped clean, that graceful smiling face might have peeked out. Only half of it. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hand over his eyes. How cruel. If only all of it had been crushed. If they were going to crush it, then he might have been able to deceive George's heart for a while by saying that it was just someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. Yet, they had left half of the face. It caused the body so much humiliation, and also made it clear that this body was none other than Shannon. How inhuman, how monstrous. There, at Hideyoshi's feet, trying his best to burn the image of the remaining of Shannon's expression into his eyes, was Kanan. Yeah. Kanan was not crying. Tears had risen to his eyes, but they did not drip down. But that didn't mean that he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the gospel house, whom he had loved as a sister, must have been just the same as losing a blood relative.
ジョージ、
I'm sorry if I'm sniffly. The emotions have definitely been running.
シャノンちゃんはきっとありがとう言ってるぞ。お前に恥ずかしいところを見られとうなかったんや。きっとお前が耐えてくれたこと。
Oh, conscious, yeah, conscious state.
分かってるよ、父さん。
Mm.
分かってるよ。
George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, sinking down powerlessly.
父さん、頼みがあるんだ。
なんや。
僕の代わりに見てほしいんだ。
Yeah.
シャノンは指に
Ah.
指輪をつけてるかな。
指輪？ちょいと見てみる。
Wow. Yeah, that looks cruel. Canon here. Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Canon silently pointed to one of Shannon's hands.
ああ、あるで。
Oh.
こりゃダイヤの指輪や。クズダイヤとちゃう。なかなかの値打ちもんや。
Mm.
それは
And on what finger is it?
どっちの手の
Ah, which hand?
どの指にあるのかな。
Hmm.
と、左手の薬指や。
Fuck you, game.
そっか、シャノンちゃん、婚約しとったんか。
ジョージ、あなた、
Mm.
まさか。
エヴァ、今はそんなん関係ないで。シャノンちゃんは男に将来を約束されとったんや。一生を幸せにしちゃると男に言わせたんや。それが誰かは問題とちゃうで。男にそこまで言わしめて女の本懐やないか。いつこの指輪をもらったんかは知らん。誰が渡したかも知らん。
Mm.
だがそれでもシャノンちゃんは指輪をもらえたんや。そしてそれを受け入れ左の薬指に通したんや。
That she did.
指輪を送った男もきっと喜んだんとちゃうか。
Mm-hmm. Would be. It's a conflicting emotion right now. To most of the people there, Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation and was blurting out strange things. But to those who really knew the truth about George and Shannon's relationship, everything he said made sense.
そっか。ありがとう、父さん。
George stood up. The traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression returned to its usual calm.
行こう。バトラー君、ジェシカちゃん。これ以上、僕たちがここにいると、大人の邪魔になる。
Yeah, it's gonna be hell of a rest of the day. Fuck.
そうだな。
Jessica sniffled once and, trying to say that she was alright, showed her face to her mother, who had been holding her the whole time. Aw. At least you still have your mother. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual face. Although she still couldn't recover her smile. So fuck, she was able to lean on her mother because they had reconciled the previous night. Ah.
バトラ
Yeah, poor Battler.
ー、しっかり。
Everyone here lost someone. Battler kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies.
すまねえな。がっつり泣いたら落ち着いたぜ。
Mm-hmm.
親父の野郎。普段はクソクソ言ってるくせに。ちょっと死んじまったくらいでピーピー泣くんじゃねえぜって。笑ってやがれ。
Yeah, that would be like Rudolph.
仕方ねえだろ。親が死んだら泣くように。 遺伝子すり込まれちまってんだからよ。
Yeah. I thought, like, when I first experienced that kind of stuff, I thought that I wasn't gonna cry, but when finally the coffin came next to me, I broke down right then and there. It's not an easy moment. Battler's face was still bright red from the tears, but even though it was forced, he had at least recovered enough to fake a smile.
カノン、お前もこれ以上ここにいてはいけません。子供たちを連れてお屋敷に戻っていなさい。
Natsuhi, unable to take a step into the storehouse, had been standing under the rain the whole time. Maybe she had her own way of grieving, different from Battler's. She had good stuff happen to her twice in a row, so she had some I don't know, something to brace for, I guess. But it's not gonna be easy for her. She's gonna cry when she gets to her room alone. She realized that she had to take on a sense of responsibility now that her husband was dead. So she gave Gunnan those orders, yeah.
はい、奥様。
Gunnan rose silently and turned to face them. His face was pure white, almost as though his own heart had died along with Shannon. There was no life in his expression. If, during the course of a normal day, he had been instructed to do a tour of the beautiful rose garden, Kanan may have led the way for them. But now, there was no distinction between Kanan and the children. They were now just kids of about the same age, with the wounds of having lost someone close to them. After seeing the children go back, Natsui gave orders to Genji.
ケンジ、すぐに警察に連絡しなさい。
Well, and he...
台風が通り過ぎるまでは来られないでしょうが、どうすればいいか指示を与えてくれるはずです。
わかりました。防災用の無線機がありますので、それで連絡します。
When she heard that, Natsuhi remembered. That's right, the telephones were out today, weren't they? Yeah, they were. However, since it had been assumed that there could be trouble with the phones on this isolated island, a radio had been installed. Clever thinking by someone. Anyway, let's contact the police and seek their instructions. Everything else can wait. Yeah, you're so level-headed right now. Good job.
ナチョ先生、もうこの場はどうし。
残念ながら。
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
ナチョ先生、もうこの場はどうしようもありませんか。
残念ながら。
私には何もできませんな。
わかりました。ゲンジ、せめて主人の顔を何かで覆ってやることはできませんか。
Not only is that probably the norm, but especially in this case.
このような姿を晒すことは当人にとっても屈辱的でしょうから。
はい。
Genji picked up several towels hanging inside the storehouse when Ava stopped him in a shrill voice.
ちょっとちょっと。
Yeah.
お待ちなさいよ。ここは犯行現場なんでしょ。なら変に手を加えちゃダメよ。
I mean, you are correct. You are correct.
私たちは混乱してて現場に土足で踏み入っちゃったけど、それはきっと警察の捜査の邪魔になったわよ。
Natsuhi glared at Ava testily. Objectively speaking, Ava was right, yeah. Even so, she glared at Ava as though accusing her of refusing to do those tragic corpses, which had been humiliated even after their death, the simple kindness of covering their faces. However, Ava had spoken both calmly and correctly. This horrible state was definitely not an accident. It was a crime. Someone had killed them. It was a murder case. In that case, they should be careful not to further disturb the site. They had to aid the police as much as possible so that they might hand over a clue that could be used to find the detestable culprit.
私もエヴァさんに賛成ですな。
Yeah, listen to the doctor.
警察が来るまでここは手つかずにしておくべきです。奥様、いかがなさいますか？
そうですね。わかりました。ここを閉ざしなさい。それから念のためここに別の施錠をするように。
別の施錠？
ええ。ここに来た時、シャッターの鍵は閉じていました。ということは、シャッターの鍵を使い、犯人が施錠したということです。
確かに通りや。じゃあここを開けた限り犯人の指紋が残ってるんとちゃうんか。
警察に証拠として提出する価値はあるでしょうけど、カノン君が普通に持ってここを開けるのに使用しちゃったわ。多分カノン君の指紋も付着しちゃってるわよ。
That is true, but if it also has someone else's fingerprints, then that obviously doesn't clear Kanon, but it sure could incriminate someone else.
そしてその鍵はさっき源氏さんに手渡され、源氏さんも素手で受け取ってる。大した証拠にはなりそうにないわね。
それは不用心でした。申し訳ございません。
源氏さん、この倉庫の鍵は他にもあるんか？
いいえ、この一つだけです。
ということは犯人はその鍵を使用人室から持ち出し、そして律儀に元の場所に戻したちゅうことになるな。
Hideyoshi's theory sounded plausible, but was actually very strange if you thought about it. Why would they go to all the trouble of returning a key they stole? No, if you think about it even more deeply, there are some even more bizarre points. Usually, when a criminal hides a body, they are trying to delay the point at which it will be found and use that time to escape. The actual place where the 6 were killed wasn't necessarily here, but they had been killed somewhere on this island. And it would be normal to think that the reason they had been carried to the storehouse was to hide the bodies and delay the discovery of the crime. But that graffiti drawn on the shutter that looked like an eerie magic circle had eloquently indicated that the corpses were hidden here. It didn't specifically say that they were here, but after 6 people had gone missing, by making such an obvious scribble and even returning the key to open it, it seemed almost as though someone had wanted the corpses to be discovered here.
とにかく一度は犯人が開け閉めをした施錠だけでは信用できません。犯人の手からもこの場所を保護する意味で施錠を新たにしたいと言っているのです。
いい案だと思います。私も賛成です。
Genji fished around inside the storehouse and unsealed a brand new padlock which had been inside a small box.
鍵はどうなさいますか？
私が持ちましょう。責任を持って警察に手渡します。
Natsuhi took the key to the padlock from Genji's hand. After that, they all exited and lowered the shutter. Because of that, the corpses were once again sealed behind that shutter, covered with that gruesome magic circle. Genji crouched down in front of the shutter to fasten the new padlock. In addition to the main lock on the shutter, there is sometimes a place where you can attach your own lock in front of it. This was one of those types. In the midst of the roar of thunder and the pouring rain, the storehouse stood there, honestly. On its closed shutter was the magic circle, drawn in a creepy blood-like substance and swallowing up the bodies of 6 whole people. Natsuhi, putting the new lock on, may not have been entirely to preserve the scene for the police, but rather she might have felt like she wanted to shut that mouth for all eternity, to prevent any more victims from being swallowed by that eerie demon.
さあ、行きましょう、皆さん。
That's a very empty or forlorn look.
南條先生、ご足労をありがとうございました。現時は急いで警察に連絡を。
戻りましたらすぐに連絡します。
The adults left the storehouse. The ghastly magic circle drawn on the shutter, still swallowing the 6 bodies, loomed eerily, occasionally lit up by the lightning. Oh boy. That was one hell of a chapter. Curtain rise on tragedy. Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely where we're gonna end it here. Oh my god, what a fucking scene. I don't know if it came across in the recording through my mic, but I was definitely getting emotional. I started getting teary-eyed and I'm not sure if a single tear started going down my face, but it certainly felt like that, and my voice was like even more hoarse or crackly than normal. Yeah, it definitely felt like I had this lump in my throat and it was harder to speak. Oh boy. I did not expect that scene. Like, the death was obvious, but I did not expect it to get that emotional. I didn't expect the scene to swallow me that much. But it certainly did. I think now I can say that this was probably the last thing that I knew from the anime itself. Like, I didn't know who died. I just remembered in the anime that there was a death scene, which obviously that's not a spoiler because the premise of this whole thing is a murder mystery, so you expect someone to die. But the thing I did know is that someone died in some kind of storage. That's all I remembered. I didn't know who. I thought it was maybe 1 or maybe 2 people, but I guess it was fucking 6 people. Oh my god. Yeah, so I think from now on out, I have like no clues at all as what's going on. Like, even that, it wasn't really a spoiler that I knew. I just knew that storage was involved somehow. But, you know, it's still a big mystery as to who, how, or why. I mean, why is probably because of the gold and the riddle. But, yeah. Let me just sit here for a while to gather myself. To gather myself a bit more. Fuck. Let's see if we have anything new here. Oh, fuck you, game. Fuck you, game. Okay. Oh. Lovely. The text has also changed. Okay, game. Ushuramiya Kraus. Half of his face gone. Corpse found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems the side of his head was smashed after his death. We start where it all begins. This is very curious. Nothing there. Born with weak bronchi and sometimes assailed by sudden asthma attacks. I think that was there before too. Hmm. Ooh, yikes. Shremia Rudolph. Corpse found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. His face seems to have been smashed after his death. He has the right to lament his ill fortune. So, okay, that's slightly different there too. Ooh. Ushurumia Kirie. Corpse found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. Her face seems to have been smashed after her death. She was chosen by the demon's roulette. That's all there is to it. Damn. Damn. This I was not expecting. Ushurumia Rosa. Corpse found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. Her face seems to have been smashed after her death. I'll be seeing her again, so I'm not lonely. What do you mean, I? Is this Beatrice talking here? Or is this Battler talking? Maybe Mario? I don't know who's POV. I'll be seeing her again, so I'm not lonely. Okay, that's curious. She will resurrect. Maybe my idea about her being Beatrice is correct and she's not actually dead. You know? Maybe we will see her after death somewhere in the realm of death or realm of something or other. Goda Toshiro, corpse found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. His face seems to have been smashed after his death. How unfortunate. Apparently he was actually supposed to be on duty in the guest house. Smile. Ooh, that's, yeah, brutal. Ganon or Saya. Corpse found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. It seems the side of her head was smashed after her death. Don't worry, everyone will be revived in the Golden Land. Okay, if you say so. If you say so. Damn. Also, I don't know if I ever noticed, but the straight family lineage is red. And these servants are blue. And Nanjo has nothing. Anything new here? Nope. But the 6 have been sacrificed. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. The 2 who are close. I mean, this is the only couple left. I don't know. Oh boy. Yeah, I think I've calmed enough. Episode 11, chapter 11. I guess this is the next chapter, so it was chapter 10. That was the crazy one. I don't know how I'm even gonna... What am I even gonna put on the title or the thumbnail so that it doesn't spoil things to those who haven't played through this? Like, I don't know, I guess I'll just name it something like the storage or the shed. I don't know. Something. No idea what kind of sprites I'm gonna use for this part. Because if I'm gonna use crying sprites, it's gonna be obvious. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, anyway, I think I'm gonna end it here, and we'll see again in the next part. I don't know. Patreon, early access, all that stuff. Okay, yeah. Bye.